Resident Evil 6 is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most controversial Resident Evil game of all time. A series that was once known for its slow-paced survival horror became a fully fledged action game with zero horror elements in RE6. While I enjoy Resident Evil 6 for the stupid, wacky fun that it is, a vast majority of the fanbase just can't get themselves to enjoy this game. The gap between this game and the traditional Resident Evil experience is just too big for some people, which is exactly why I decided to make this video, to close that gap as much as I can and turn it into an experience that you might end up liking more. But before we jump into that, we need to talk about what's wrong with Resident Evil 6. Why do so many people find this game unenjoyable in the first place? Other than the fact that it's an action game, that is. Well, I feel like a huge contributing factor to people not enjoying this game is the difficulty. A huge reason as to why people enjoy the survival horror formula so much is because of the feeling of overcoming struggle. It's that illusion of difficulty, that feeling of having barely enough, which made the original game so appealing. Because of the fact that Resident Evil 6 is an action game, they are very generous with the tools that they give you. A little too generous. They throw a ton of ammo and explosives at you, weakened the enemies, a streamlined inventory system, skill points that you can buy upgrades with, a dodge and roll mechanic. It's insane. These gameplay features make the game way too easy to get through, especially if you're playing on the assisted difficulty. How do we make this feel more like the original games? Well, it's simple. Make it feel harder. Of course, there's no amount of settings or mods that we could put on the game that'll remove any of these features, but we can make the game harder to play. First thing I recommend doing is turning up the difficulty significantly. I feel like the lower end difficulties, yes, even the normal one, are just way too easy. Turning up the difficulty actually kind of balances the game more in favor of the enemies. If the player has all these new gameplay mechanics and resources, why not make the enemies harder to fight? It only makes the game more engaging. If you want to make the game even more engaging, I recommend not purchasing any skills from the skill menu. At least not any skills that benefit you, which is a majority of them. These skills just make an already easy game even more easy, so yeah, throw them away. You can also change the crosshair from the default one to a laser point reticle, just like in Resident Evil 5. I don't know why, but for some reason, when playing with this laser reticle, it has me focusing more on precision and where I shoot, while with the default crosshair, I pretty much just spam the shoot button. You could also install the Ultimate Trainer mod for RE6 to tinker with the gameplay side of things a bit more, to make it a bit less in your favor. Doing these things can help Resident Evil 6 feel a bit more like a struggle, and might end up making it a bit more enjoyable if you're a classic RE fan. That feeling of struggle was very integral to the original Resident Evil games, so bringing back the feeling of struggle inside of RE6 can kinda end up making it feel refreshing, even if it still is an action game. You can also make Resident Evil 6 feel a little bit more enjoyable if you touch up the graphics a little bit. Specifically, I recommend downloading Reshade. If you don't know what Reshade is, it's a PC application that you can download which basically applies a filter over your game. There are hundreds of different effects that you can choose, all of which can kind of enhance the visuals of the game. This next point may come off as a bit contradictory to what I said before, however, I do recommend playing through the game in co-op. At the end of the day, we can't change the core of this game. You can play RE6 by yourself in single player, however, I really do feel like that turns down the enjoyability of the game. The most fun I've ever had with Resident Evil 6 was when I was playing with a friend. And even if you don't have a friend to play with, I still recommend playing in co-op, because the partner AI that's in single player just isn't very good. Combining all of these various different changes and tweaks to the game can end up making Resident Evil 6 more fun to play across the board. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope this may encourage you to revisit RE6. Despite its problems, Resident Evil 6 can actually be a pretty fun game. You just gotta know where to look. I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.